Hello everybody, welcome to my first installment on my 2013 growing season. I just wanted to show you my fish tank really quick. I had it about 5 years and this is the first time I've really been satisfied with how it looks, so I just thought I'd give you a quick look at it. This video is going to be split into 3 parts. The first part here is the tomatoes and peppers part. The second part is going to be a tour of my houseplants. I want to show you the kinds of houseplants that I'm growing. And then the third part is going to be Religion Corner. Last video I promised that my next video was going to be about how I became an atheist, so I'm going to talk about that as well. Let me get started on the tomato part and pepper. So I got the Tomato Growers catalog like just the day after Christmas or something, and it gets earlier every year. I bought giant Marconi hybrid seeds. I bought Cherokee chocolate. Actually, that one was free. They gave that one to me for free for having an order over $15. This is Giant Belgium. I'm looking forward to trying that. I've heard good things about it. Tomato. For peppers, I'm going to grow Congo Trinidad this year for something different. And then I bought more black cherry seeds. Black cherry tomato. This is what comes. It comes in that envelope. By the way, I got my cups. And I will be planting my seeds, my hot pepper seeds, this weekend here. So there's the bill that comes with it, and then they give you a little thank you letter or whatever, and then they give you some instructions. No big deal. But if you paid any attention to any of my other videos, I told you how I got some New Mex Big Jim pepper seeds from Tomato Grower Supply Company, and I didn't believe that that's what I got. I thought it was something different. So in order to get New Mex Big Jim seeds that I had a better chance of getting what I wanted, I went to this company, Reimer Seeds. It's a good website. I would recommend checking it out. They didn't send me a catalog, but it's okay. I didn't really need one. And I got Big Beef Tomato from them too. I've heard several people on YouTube talking about the Big Beef Tomato, and so I felt like I had to try it. I'm not going to grow heirlooms like I did before. I want tomatoes that are good. So anyway, that's about all I've got to say. What I'm going to do this time differently than last time is I'm going to soak my seeds at least 24 hours in warm water. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put seeds in the cup, fill it with water, and then I'm going to put it on top of my aquarium because it's 82 degrees, and I'll let them sit there for 24 hours, and then I'll bring out my hot box and continue from there. And like I did last year, I'm only going to have 1 cup per type, and I will be using my separation method again. And don't forget the most important part. Anyway, that's it for this part. Nice and short. Reimer Seeds, a new company I found. Seems like a really good company. Look it up. I'll post these links below, so you see reimerseeds.com. Okay, so the list of plants that I'm going to be growing this year includes 2 Jamaican hot chocolate plants, 2 Congo Trinidad plants, 3 First Prize Tomato Hybrid plants, 3 Giant Belgium plants, 4 Giant Marconi plants, 2 New Mex Big Jim plants, and 2 Black Cherry plants. And since I'm only growing 2 kinds of Capsicum Chinense, the Jamaican hot chocolate and the Congo Trinidad, at the end of this series for 2013, I will be giving away all the seeds I collect from those plants. So what will end up happening is the seeds that I collect, either it will be true to the strain Jamaican hot chocolate, or it will be true to the strain Congo Trinidad, or a possibility of a hybrid. And in my opinion, in any case, it should grow some pretty good peppers. So stay tuned if you want to be involved in that giveaway. That'll probably be on my last video. And now on to the second part of my video, my houseplants. I'm going to give you a tour of my houseplants, and because it's winter and there's not a lot of green out there, and here in Minnesota it's very cold at this time of year. Tomorrow's low is supposed to be 9 below zero, so just for something to remind us about the growing season in summer, I'm going to be showing you my houseplant collection. Okay, so here we are. We're going to start my tour of my houseplants, and I'm going to start out with this one, Euphorbia lactea. It's about 4.5 to 5 feet tall. Right now it's my tallest plant. Very interesting. A lot of people would consider this to be a cactus, but it's not. It's a euphorbia. I've only got 2 true cactuses, and I will show you those in a little bit here. But Euphorbia lactea. When I first started this plant 10 years ago, it was a cutting about this size right here. And from that cutting, 10 years later, this is what I've got. Very interesting plant. My wife hates this plant because she gets stuck on the thorns all the time. She can't stand this plant, but I told her there's no way I'm getting rid of it. So, Euphorbia lactea. This one is called Euphorbia mammillaris, and it's a very variegated type, and it's got a very unusual growth habit. It's a cool plant though, I like it. About 10 years old, from just a small piece like this. 10 years later, that's what I got. A lot of these euphorbias grow pretty slowly, but it's alright. So, very interesting plant. Euphorbia mammillaris. This one is not a euphorbia, it's a Pachypodium. Pachypodium lameri, otherwise known as the Madagascar palm. One of the common things that my plants have is almost all of them have thorns. Look at that. Some harsh thorns there. Got a green stem. I think it's a very cool looking plant. In the summer outside, this crown of leaves is a lot bushier, but it's winter, it's inside, it's dropped some leaves, but it still looks pretty good. And I got this one about 5 years ago at, of all places, Walmart. So you don't necessarily have to go to a special place to find interesting plants. Madagascar palm. I got it when it was about 6 inches tall. It's probably about 3 feet tall now. So 5 years growth. Eventually they do branch, and this is an actual tree. So given enough time, this will grow into a small tree. This one is Schefflera arboricola. This is a common plant you can find in just about any greenhouse nursery as a house plant. This one's got an interesting story. But first, let me just say what I'm trying to do here is grow this in the style of a bonsai. Even though the pot is too big for that to be a bonsai, that's my goal. That's what I'm trying to do. And this plant is 24 years old. I've had this plant for 24 years. And when I worked at a grocery store, and this is back in 1989, and this grocery store had a little plant area, and one day I was in the back and I had saw that somebody had thrown away a plant about this big, and so the origin of this plant is one that I dug out of the garbage. It's an interesting plant. I've been working on it for 24 years to get it to look like this. It would look very differently if I let it go the way it wanted to, but I'm trying to get this to look like a bonsai tree. So every so often I got to give it a haircut, as I call it. Basically, it's just a very harsh trim, and every time I trim it like that, it gets more branches. So 24 years, and I've got something that resembles a bonsai, and who knows, in another 24 years maybe it'll look like a real bonsai. So these are my only true cactuses. These are jungle cactuses. This one is called zigzag cactus, and this one here is Christmas cactus. This one is called Schlumbergia bucklei, from the mountains of Brazil, and it's an epiphyte. It grows in on trees and on rocks, and not in the ground, and it's a pretty common plant. And this one I assume is the same kind of thing. I don't know the Latin name for this one, but zigzag cactus is what it was sold to me as. And the interesting thing about this cactus is that this is a cutting from a cactus that my grandmother was growing before my mother was alive. So this cutting came from a plant that is probably about 70 years old, and that plant still exists too, by the way. My dad has that one. So after my mom passed away, I got a cutting of that one, and it grew really good. So hasn't flowered very much for me, but still interesting. So these are the only true cacti that I have in my collection. This one is called Euphorbia platyclada. I have it as a hanging plant, but to give you a better idea of this unusual plant, I'm going to take it down now and give you a close look at it. So this is a euphorbia, but it's a very unusual euphorbia. One might think that this is nothing more than a pot full of dead sticks. And that's the common name of this plant, dead sticks. It's not green. Doesn't have any green leaves. The stems have the illusion of being brown, but if you get up there really close, there is some green there. But I imagine that this plant took on this form so it could avoid being eaten or what, I don't know. But it's mimicking a dead plant, which I think is really cool. So out of all my plants, this is the one that I might be persuaded to give some cuttings away. Every little piece like this, if I cut that off and if I mail that to somebody, eventually when they plant that, it will grow into this plant. I take this outside like I do most of my plants in the summer and bring it in. This thing has just grown like crazy, but it's 10 years old. I went on a euphorbia shopping spree about 10 years ago. And so out of all my plants, I would have to say this is my most unusual one. It's one of my favorites. But they're all my favorite. Every one of these plants has some kind of sentimental value to me. Dead sticks. Euphorbia platyclada. This one is Bocarnia recurvata, and otherwise known as the ponytail palm. This is also another common house plant that you can buy in a nursery. I bought this one about 18 years ago, and it's a very interesting plant. It's got this large, I forget the name, there is a name for that. It's a very slow growing tree is what it is. Old trees like this, they look really cool, but they're probably like 10 or 15 feet tall, but they got multiple stems, and very interesting. But yeah, I've had this one for 18 years, and the story about this one was I went to a garden center and they had a whole bunch of these, but one of them, this one, was just crushed. Something had fallen on top of it when it was young, and if you can see that scar right there, that was where it happened. So being that it was damaged, they put it on sale. I think I bought it for like $2. And so 18 years later, that's how much it's grown. Maybe like maybe just under 2 feet, but interesting nonetheless. And it'll keep growing. But yeah, all these plants that I grow can handle neglect. I can go for 2 or 3 months without watering. I'll just be sitting here one day and I'll think to myself, hey, when's the last time I watered these things? And it's been like 2 months, and oh, I better give them some water. But in the summer they go outside, they get watered by the natural rain, and then I water them like once every 2 or 3 weeks, especially if it's really hot. But inside in the winter, neglect, they can handle it. So, ponytail palm. Another euphorbia. I couldn't find the actual Latin name of it, euphorbia, but this is actually one you can find pretty commonly in a nursery. It looks like a melted candle, kind of. But I've had this one for about 10 years as well, and it's just an unusual, it's got a kind of an unusual growth to it. Like I say, it's kind of distorted in some places, and it reminds me of a melted candle. So another euphorbia of mine in my collection. And that brings me to this one. I do know what this one is. This is Euphorbia trigona. And I do have an interesting story behind this one. Back in 1984, when I was 20 years old, my grandpa brought me a plant. And this was the plant. And so I grew that plant in my parents' house for a few years. And then what ended up happening was I took that plant outside thinking that I could get it, if I got it more sun, it would grow better. Well, that plant got horrible sunburn and it was going to die. So I took a cutting off that plant. I planted that. It grew. I had it in this house. It actually got about 10 feet tall. I had to cut it because it was hitting the ceiling. I cut it off twice. It hit the ceiling twice. And then finally it just started looking kind of bad, and it was huge. And so I decided, well, in order to make some more room, I'm going to take another cutting. And this is about 7 years ago. So about 7 years ago I took a cutting of that big huge one that I had, and this is the result now. So this one's probably about 4 feet tall again, and a direct heirloom from my grandpa. And this is probably the most common and easy euphorbia to find if you're going out looking for one in the local nursery. And I would recommend this plant to anybody. In fact, I've probably given about 20 people cuttings from my Euphorbia trigona, and now they all grow it too, and everybody likes it. And I've had two, some sites say that it's from India and some sites say it's from Africa, but the locals call this one the good luck tree. Very easy to grow. It can grow in low lights in your house. So like I say, this would be the one I would recommend first if you wanted to try something like this. Euphorbia trigona. And here's one more. I don't know the actual name of this one either. It is a euphorbia, but I like the unusual growth pattern it has with the trailing, you know, almost serpentine look to it. When I first got this plant, it was a cutting. You know, it was a cutting about this big, and like all my others, I thought it was supposed to grow upright. I thought it was supposed to grow upright like this one. So I'm sitting here, I'm growing this one, and all of a sudden it just flopped over, and I thought, oh no, it's flopped over, I got to do something. So I staked it up, and eventually the stem got so weak down towards the base, like it thinned itself out, that it just flopped over even with the support that I gave it. And I was thinking, oh no, you know, what's wrong? And then it grew another thing like that. So finally I figured out that this is the natural way it's supposed to grow, instead of straight up, sort of trailing out like this. So that's a unique story I have behind that. But I like this one too. It's about 10 years old. Very interesting. Another euphorbia with a very interesting growth pattern. And here's my final plants. There's 4 plants in here. While I was growing them, I discovered that they stay pretty small, so I decided just to pack them in one pot, and I can put this pot right on the windowsill, and I take it out like the others in the summer. This one is Euphorbia aeruginosa. Interesting. They all have a similar look, but I used to know what this one's called. It is Euphorbia, but I can't remember, and I've lost. I have it written down somewhere, but still interesting. If you notice, there's a similar pattern amongst all these Euphorbias, but every one in here is different species. Another one that I don't remember, but this one's pretty cool. The tangle, the way it's growing. And then this one on the end is Euphorbia inopola. Very unusual growth. Very unusual growth to this one. It's one of the most unusual ones I've got too. So there you have it. That's a tour of my houseplants. I like euphorbias, but I do have a couple other types as well. So I hope you've enjoyed my little tour. Something to do in the middle of winter. My plants.